Great. So, hello everyone. I'm Mina from StarBathDyes, and thanks for joining me on this Sunday morning. If it's morning for you, yeah, thanks for being here. I'm gonna share my screen to show a little presentation that I have for you. So, just one second. Okay, can you see that? Awesome. So, just need to, oops. There we go. Just took a while. So yeah, I'm Mina of StarBathDyes, and I'm nearing 1 year starting in March. So this is very exciting for me, and this is my first event, and I'm not the most comfortable with public speaking, but um, I thought this would be really fun to do. So thank you for being here with me. Um, oops. So I naturally dye yarn in very small kind of micro batches. And I like to focus specifically on non-superwash wool, but I also dye on a silk linen base in the warmer months. And I really like dyeing kind of playful and colorful dyes using natural yarns. I do some variegated colorways, some speckled colorways, and also some semi-solid bases. And a lot of my dyeing is inspired by astrology and the zodiac season and just general cozy feelings. Here I have a mini set that I dyed on BFL fingering, and oops, I'm getting that my internet's unstable. Am I coming up clear, or is it a bit choppy?
Yeah, sound was a little bit choppy, but you're doing okay now.
Okay. Let me know how it's coming out. I'm in the countryside right now, so I could, um, oops, oops. My Wi-Fi is not the best here. Um, okay. So back to for Scorpio season. And if you like this kind of color palette, I also specifically dyed another jam inspired mini set that's available at the Drop Stitch, which is a small yarn shop in Erin, Ontario, of the mini sets. But I also have some Capricorn. No, I think I sold out, but I have some Valentine's season mini sets on my website right now if you're into the minis. So I thought I would share a bit about my story and how I started naturally dyeing. My grandmother would naturally dye with food scraps, specifically like onion skins, rosemary, mint. And so naturally dyeing is very like tender and nostalgic to me. And I feel really connected to my grandmother. And she's like a huge inspiration for me. She's turning 88 next week. And I just really love her. She has processed linen and just really cool, and I love her. I naturally dye. And here are my core collection colorways here. I have Fairy Circle, the Star, Ritual, and Mushroom. more about how I dye. I really preferred with whole a small dye garden off of my balcony. So you could see in the picture there is me doing like some seed planting with different seed exchanging with other dyers, which was really fun. So I have like my little seeds with me that I got, and I just love even that like connectedness that I could have with other dyers by sharing seeds and stuff. So yeah, I grew marigolds, black scabiosa. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. I also dyed with carrot tops. In the left hand corner here is some curly dockroot that I foraged from my parents' yard that I dyed with as well. But anything that I'm not able to grow myself, I like getting from local farmers. So I was really lucky to be able to get some dye plants from farmers. Lucky Buck Farms, who's owned by Aaliyah, was very kind and gave me all the rhubarb leaves that she had to cut off of the rhubarbs that she was selling. And if you're in Kitchener, Ontario, I really recommend checking out her website. And she does a CSA, and she also sells at the Kitchener Farmers Market. And then as well, I dyed with some chrysanthemums from Healing Hands Farm. They were located in Guelph, Ontario, but they just moved to Nova Scotia. So if you're on the East Coast, I would recommend checking them out there. And I'm pretty sure they will be selling at the Halifax Farmers Market, but I'm not positive. So the best information would be to check out their website. But then anything that I can't get from my own dye garden or from local farmers, I rely on natural dye suppliers. And from there, I get logwood, madder, cochineal, and lac. And yeah, I still prefer getting whole plants when I can from natural dye suppliers, but there are some colorways that I use extracts on, or the whole plant is processed in a way into like a powder almost. So one of the things that I provide in my shop is custom dye to order, and this is my favorite part of what I get to do because I really like collaborating and working with other people and designers, and it's really exciting to get to work with other artists. So this was a custom dye to order that I did, and it was really fun to get to make pairings of colors and dye them as like a really fun, colorful collection. And they were made into vests that were sold. So that was great and exciting. And now I wanted to talk about StarBathDyes' first yarn calendars. They are available until tomorrow, and then I will be closing up the pre-order to have them ready to ship by the end of March. And so continuing the astrology theme, I have 12 days of astrology, and it will be 12 minis, or 12 minis, and each mini will be for each astrological season. So Pisces, Aquarius, Aries, etc. And some of the colorways will be repeats from this previous year, and other ones will be a surprise. And then as well, I have the big three, which will be 300-gram skeins based off of your sun, moon, and rising. Or if you prefer, you could just let me know which 3 zodiac signs you would like as part of your calendar. And same thing, some of them will be repeats from the previous year and others will be surprises. And I put together these two calendars as kind of a closing to this astrological year coming up at the end of Pisces season. So it'll be kind of like a goodbye to the astrological colorways that I dyed this year to make room for new ones. And so, yeah, that will be available in my shop until tomorrow, and then I will be closing it up if you are interested. And then lastly, I wanted to share about what I lovingly call my special services. And this is where I kind of enmesh astrology and yarn even more. I provide written astrology readings based on colors that you can work with that are unique to your birth chart. So I do a written reading and I make kind of like a little palette with colors and I explain what each color is kind of good for you. And in my Google form that I send out, there's space for you to ask specific questions of like, what color can I wear so I feel confident, or what color should I wear to an interview, and so forth. Yeah. And then alongside that, oops, went too far. Alongside that, I have dyeing your colors. So based off of your color reading, we can collaboratively come up with some colorways to dye that are based on your birth chart. And now we're going to do a yarn preview of what I have in stock available for today, but I just want to make sure I'm not missing any questions. Oh, thank you, Leah. So how can we access it? So it's available in my shop. It'll be under special services, and all the information is there. But if you'd have any other questions, you could email or DM me as well. So now I'm going to show a yarn preview. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and show you in person. Okay. So first up, I'll start with this colorway. It's called First Love. It's like a lilac-y purple, and this is on DK wool, 100% Canadian untreated wool. It's a more rustic base. So Joanne is asking how important the time of birth is. It is pretty important to get an accurate reading of your chart. But if you do not have your birth time, you can email me and I could try to work with you with that and let you know exactly what information I'm able to provide. I just recently did a rectification for someone who did not know their time of birth, but I'm still learning how to do that. I'm in a course right now on how to rectify charts. So I'm not too confident in my ability yet to do that precisely, but I might be there in the near future. But if you don't have your birth chart, you could email me and I'll let you know how we could work around it. But yeah, this is First Love on DK wool. It's a more rustic base, and I dyed this with a logwood exhaust bath and indigo. So it's kind of a cooler based purple. Look at that color. And then we have raspberry cordial. I really love this colorway. Um, I also use some exhaust baths to dye it, which I think is really fun because I get to use up all the leftover dye, and it feels like a fun little challenge not to waste anything and to like mix colors to make new ones. So I think I have it in my listing, but off the top of my head, I think I dyed this with a logwood, exhaust, indigo, and lac. And so it is a very pretty raspberry pink, and it is on BFL worsted weight. And I've been really enjoying worsted color work sweaters right now. So I dyed this color because I thought it went really beautifully with the mushroom colorway I have. And this is a lighter version of mushroom because I used the exhaust bath again. But I just think they pair really beautifully together. And so I've also dyed mushroom light on BFL worsted. And then I also have mushroom dyed on BFL fingering. It has like such a beautiful twist, and it really is next to skin soft, at least for me. This vest that I knit up is in BFL, and I think it's really soft and comfortable. If you're more sensitive to wool and you're unsure, I would try out a mini skein to see if you're nervous about non-superwash wool. But for most people, I find that it is next to skin soft. And then the last base that I dyed mushroom on is this limited edition mohair that I have. And it is made from Angora goats in Canada. And so it's really special base. It's not like a typical mohair. It's not really fluffy. It's more kind of a subtle halo. And I just love it so much. I have a sock here that I knit out of the BFL fingering held with the mohair. And I think it looks really cute. This is the Forest Trail socks by Northern Knits and Pearls. I only have one sock finished because I lost my needles, but I hope that I could find them so I could have a second pair. And yeah, this is a non-superwash sock, and it doesn't have nylon because the mohair with the high twist BFL makes her for a very durable sock. And is it prickly? I don't find it prickly. I'm actually pretty sensitive to mohair usually when it's like super fluffy, and the ticklingness of it I really don't enjoy. So I don't find this mohair prickly, but it's not commercially soft either, if that makes sense. It does feel woolly, but it's not the same kind of prickliness as like a super fuzzy, fluffy mohair. And then my most exciting colorway that is a fan favorite is Ritual, and it's kind of like a speckled variegated colorway. I love it so much. I could stare at it forever and just finding different pockets of like color. And so I've dyed this on BFL fingering as well as the limited edition mohair. And Yeah, I loved seeing how it came out on the mohair. It's almost looks like watercolor. It's blended really beautifully, and um, yeah, I just love it. I thought they would look really beautiful paired together, or even um, I really like pairing ritual with mushroom. The vest I'm wearing right now, um, this top part is ritual on BFL worsted. This is mushroom BFL worsted. This is fairy circle on um, worsted wool, because I dye fairy circle on a natural gray base with yellow, and the gray and yellow makes green, for color theory. And then on the back, I'm just going to turn around. I have this colorway, which is the star. Thank you, Stephanie. The pattern is the Color Quadrant Crop by James and Watts. It knits up so quickly. If you've never done intarsia before, it's a really great introduction to that. You just link up the colorways on the side, or the different colors on the inside, and it was such a fun pattern to make, and very easy to follow. If you're not familiar with James and Watts patterns, I really recommend them. I feel like they're such a unique construction, and really fun. And so, yeah, that's all the colorways I have to show for what I have available in the shop for today. And now I thought I would open it up to some questions, if anyone has any questions. Could I post the link? Would you like the link for what specifically? The pattern or the yarn? The pattern. Yeah, of course. So I will get the pattern link for you. My favorite dye to use. Ooh, I really love dyeing with marigolds. I grew so many this summer. It was like my most abundant dye plant. And it's just such a versatile dye plant as well. Like if you play with the pH, you could go to an orange color or to green or to really bright yellow. And I just love marigolds so much. They smell really good, so harvesting them is fun. But now that it was my first year kind of intentionally growing dye plants, and this summer I know to plant the marigolds higher because I spent a lot of time bent down picking little tiny flowers. But some of the seeds I got from other dyers is giant marigolds, which I'm very excited about. So I won't be just picking little tiny flowers. They'll be a bit heftier. But let me just quickly pull up the pattern. And okay, so I'm going to link the pattern here for anyone who's interested, and that is the color quadrant crop that I am currently wearing. So let me go back up to the questions. What is lac? So lac is another natural dye plant, and it makes a range of red to pink, and you could also change the pH to get it to go to purple. What's coming up next for you in StarBathDyes? Thanks, Aaliyah. That's such a nice question. I would love to continue doing astrological monthly drops. I'm not sure exactly what they'll look like right now yet because I want to make different colorways, but I might stick to just making, for example, Aries season coming up. I think I'm going to stick to my core collection, and then just dye one colorway new to the season, because this past year, every month I was making so many colorways for each season, and that was really fun. But I think I kind of want to narrow it down now, focus specifically on making one new colorway each month for that season, and then kind of narrowing down colorways that I would like to have kind of consistently. Yeah, Rebecca, I love marigolds so much. They're great. Do the colors of naturally dyed yarns fade with washing, or are they color fast as commercial acid dyes? That's a great question, Carrie. So all of the dye plants that I use, I researched specifically so that I'm only using plants that are color fast and wash fast. So the care for that would be to wash them in cool water with a pH neutral soap, just kind of a mild soap, so you're not changing the pH of the colors, and keeping it out of direct sunlight. But I find that the colors stay really well. I actually have a swatch here that I've done in Ritual that I keep on my desk and gets a lot of direct sunlight, and it's still really colorful. The colors have not faded at all yet, but I find that natural dyes just need a bit more care, but not in any kind of intimidating way. And also I find that commercial acid dyes still do fade a bit and change. So I don't think it's too different. I know some people are like really intimidated by natural dyes, and they think that it's just gonna like turn into like a bear colored yarn again, but that won't happen. But I did have a friend post recently that they bought a naturally dyed yarn from someone, and then after they washed it, the color changed into a different purple, and that was due to a pH change, probably in the soap or the water. But that was really cool. The dye didn't go anywhere. It just became a different shade of purple. Could you please show us blueberry birthday cake BFL fingering? Unfortunately, I cannot show you, only because I'm in the middle of moving. And so I only have on hand the colorways and yarns that I dyed specifically for the show. Everything else that I have in stock in the shop will ship after March 1st, because that's when I will be at my studio again and be able to ship it. But everything that I've dyed for the show is ready to ship. But I'm so sorry, I can't show you it in my hands, but I could describe it to you. It is a very light purple that has peaks of blue underneath, because I over dyed indigo with logwood, and then I speckled it with some logwood as well. But yeah, I'm so sorry I can't show you it in person. What is red sunflowers? Like the plant. So Beth asked, do you use red sunflowers? Yeah, I've used some sunflowers before, specifically hoppy, I think is what they're called. And I use the seeds to dye. Yes, and I'll be growing some more this year, hopefully, if they turn out from the seedlings. Are you vending at any events this year, Rose? Thank you, Rose, and hello, and happy belated birthday. Um, I'm not sure if I'll be vending at any events this year. I'm immune compromised, so COVID is very scary for me, which is why I'm really thankful for this event that I'm able to do virtually and be here with you all. It's very special. So thank you to the organizers that make this event possible. I would love to vend at events in the near future. I'm really not sure with how things are going right now. Um, and it makes me a bit nervous to think about, but yeah, I would love to do that. Irene asked, I wove a large wall hanging in the 80s, a rainbow. It is as good on both sides. It is also under a skylight. Oh, that's so cool, Irene. So Irene is saying that they wove a wall hanging, I'm assuming with natural dyes, that is under a skylight and it has not faded yet. That's really cool. I love that. Yeah, I used to naturally dye little cotton project bags before I dyed yarn. And I would trade them like for bartering, and I always had them in the sun and they never faded either. But if you'd like to be so kind to your knits, I would not suggest putting it in light, but you can. Someone's asking, perhaps the Kitchener Waterloo, I'm assuming KW, fair next year. Maybe. I'm currently moving to Montreal, so I will be in a different province, but my family is in Ontario. So that's why I'm in Ontario right now, but I am moving to Montreal, but I am here from time to time. And Aaliyah's asking, are there any other Fibre artists whose work you really enjoy? Ooh, yes, everyone. I really like being on knitting Instagram. Like I used to really enjoy Ravelry for that reason. I love seeing what other people are making and sharing. I go to like a queer knitting circle twice a month, and that's really fun. So I don't know if I have like someone specific to like point you towards. I love everyone's work, and I love when people are really excited about their work. And yeah, sorry, that's not a very direct answer, but I love crafters. So if anyone ever wants to show me what you're making, I would love to see it. Yes, I did mention Kitchener because I lived there last year. And Leah of Lucky Bug Farms, who I mentioned, uh, sells veggies there and has a CSA. So that's why I mentioned Kitchener. Really recommend getting your vegetables from Aaliyah of Lucky Bug Farms. What is the difference between the personalized palette that is $25 and the $65? Okay, that's a great question, Beth. So to make my color readings more financially accessible, I have two different offerings there. I do a sliding scale, but for some people that's still not feasible. So I offer it at two different price points. And the lower point is that I still look at your birth chart and I pick out your colors, but I won't include kind of the written explanation. The $65 one, I write out very lengthy explanation about each color, and I kind of break it down into categories. So that's the different in price point, because it does take a while for me to do the readings. I try to keep them very organized, and I've had really great feedback that people use the reading as like a reference that they go back to regularly to be like, what should I wear today? What colors do I need? So yeah, I hope that answers that question. The $25 one would just be a PDF, and I make like a little palette of your colors, but I do not go into any explanation, if that makes sense. Great. Such great questions. Thank you so much. Yeah. So, trying to think of what else I could talk about. Yeah, what's everyone working on? Is anyone my favorite color, Rebecca? I love greens, and yellow is like my top favorite color, probably why I love marigolds so much also. Yeah, I really love greens that are like more yellow than blue, and yellows that are like very sunny and warm, and those are my really go-to colorway or colors, and I just love wearing them, working with them, and dyeing them. Someone is asking, can you pay more and get a personalized Zoom contact? Beth, do you mean for the color reading to get it instead of written to have it on Zoom? Both. Oh, written and Zoom. Yeah, I would be open to that. I'm really open to doing anything really. So if you have an idea, you can email me, or through my website, I have like a little contact link. You could go through there as well. Yeah, I could for sure do the written and Zoom. Why I have it as just written right now is because it takes me a really long time to get the information clearly laid out. But I could for sure do a Zoom meeting and read through what I've wrote, and that way you could ask any questions you have. Yeah, that's great. So if you're interested in that, feel free to email me about it. Ooh, so Aaliyah is asking, what are some of my favorite colors that I've dyed outside of my core collection? This is a great question. I have a few favorites, but I feel mean saying them because they're all the astrological seasons and people feel left out. But one of my favorites was Taurus season, and it was this green and blue with purpley speckles. That was really fun. I also loved dyeing Leo season and Sagittarius season. Leo season was a range of different variegated purples with gold speckles, and Sagittarius season was kind of like gold yellow with red speckles. So those were my favorite colorways this year. So fun. I loved them a lot. Irene asked, are you collecting the mushrooms yourself? So this colorway is called mushroom, but I don't dye it with mushrooms. I dye it with kutch, which is another dye plant. But I have seen people naturally dye with mushrooms. I'm not the best forager. I get very tired hiking. And so the things I forage are more like wild plants that I see like growing on the side of the street, like curly dock or goldenrod. I do not have the skill to find mushrooms, but um, really admire people who forage for mushrooms to dye with, and even like people who dye with lichen and fungi. I think that's so cool. Yeah. Beth is saying that she has some green something to show. I would love to see that if you would like to show it. Oh, awesome. What are you knitting there?
It's the beginning of a big blanket shawl type thing. It's a blanket scarf. It's 60 by 60.
Wow.
It varies in colors. You knit bands of colors. And so this is the very first starting thing that's called Bells of Ireland. And then it has a really deep green in it as well. And then a bunch of burgundies and pinks. Well,
So
not
cool.
even burgundies, they're purples and pinks, and one called champagne mixed with a very, very pale pink called pink clove, and I'm mixing them together. So,
Awesome. So
if
you're using like
like
different colors in like stripes almost?
yeah, it's striped
Very
bands,
cool.
and you can do them in any colors you want.
Yeah.
But as opposed to you, I don't like yellow very much, so I go to the blue greens, and I love red and pink, but I go to the purpley blue, reds.
Yeah, I love green. Something about green.
You can ask Rebecca from Wild West. She knows I don't like yellow. But so anyway, I thought you were asking for people that were doing green things, and I had my green thing right next to
Awesome.
me.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you for showing us. Is that a 1x1 rib you're doing right now?
Yeah,
Awesome.
just
Okay.
big. I mean, it's on size 11 needles. It was supposed to be on size 13, but the yarn really didn't support a size 13. And since it was so huge, it was like, so what if it's a little bit smaller than 60 by 60?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, thank you so much for showing me. I love that.
Thank you.
Joanne is asking, the 3-color option, can you explain more about this? How do you pick the colors? Are they the same for everyone? Okay, great. So this is for a question for the big 3 yarn calendar that I have. Basically, I have the option that people can let me know their big 3 in astrology is usually referred to as your sun sign, your moon sign, and your rising sign. So I'm going to be dyeing each sign in its own colorway, and I'll give you an example of my own chart. So I'm an Aquarius sun, Sagittarius moon, Virgo rising. So I would get the Aquarius colorway, the Sagittarius colorway, and the Virgo colorway. And those will be the same for everyone getting the same seasons. But they might be different colorways than I've dyed this past year, if that makes sense. Some of them will be surprises. I'm not going to do all the same astrology colorways that I did this past year. And that's mainly due to that I used some very seasonal natural dyes that I just can't get a hold of in the middle of February. So I'm going to have to get a bit creative with some of the colorways and switching out different dye plants that are available to me now. And so that's why some of them will be surprises. But yes, I hope that answers your question. It will be based on your 3 signs, but I've also left it an open option for people to pick any signs they want. Doesn't have to be your big three if you don't want it. I've had some people ask, I just want 3 of one sign, and here's the sign that I want. So it doesn't have to be your personal own big 3 planets, but it could be. Aaliyah is asking, are there any new materials that you're going to work with this year? Ooh, fun. I'm hoping that I can grow some woad. If you're familiar with woad, or if you're not, it's very similar to indigo, and it dyes blue. And I'm really interested in doing kind of like a fresh leaf dye with woad. I'm specifically doing this since I started naturally dyeing. I'm in thinking about like the dye plants that I'm using and their relation to colonization. So indigo has a long history with colonization. And so I've been thinking about what it means that I'm dyeing with these plants that have like really deep history, and as well as cochineal. So I'm looking to switch using plants that are more that I'm more culturally connected to. That's just a personal choice. So I'm hoping to grow woad as a replacement to indigo. And I'm hoping I could share my indigo seeds or seedlings with people who want to try dyeing with indigo, and sharing that with them so that I could kind of pass along the indigo that I won't be using anymore. But yeah, great question. I love that question. The Aquarius colorway, Rebecca is asking for. So the Aquarius season colorway I did this year was like a dark inky blue with some gold speckles. That was really fun too. I was challenging myself during Capricorn and Aquarius season, like dyeing more neutrals. I like to dye more fun, brighter colors, but astrologically, that's not the best for everyone. So I tried to stay specific to the astrological seasons, and I'm very happy with the Aquarius season colorway, how it turned out. Even though I'm an Aquarius sun, Aquarius colors are not the best for me based on my birth chart. So that was a fun challenge, dyeing more of a neutral colorway, but still be variegated and like interesting. So Tiffany is asking, and what if we have no clue what they are? If you have no clue what your big 3 is that's what I'm assuming this question is, you can email me and I will quickly look it up for you. And I can let you know. But I will need your birth time, and that includes where you were born, like location-wise, city and country, as well as your time of birth and date. If you don't know the exact time, that's okay too. Just email me and I could try to figure that out with you. So Irene is asking, do you know what your non-superwash base is, the type of sheep, or how soft or toothy it is? Yeah, so I have a lot of different bases, and all of them are non-superwash if they're wool. The Canadian bases that I have, it's a mix of different Canadian sheep. And so it is more rustic. I don't know exactly off the top of my head, but I know there's like Dorset in here. So it's not I'll say that the Canadian untreated wools are more toothy than the BFL. The BFL is more like, oh, wrong one. The BFL is more like lustrous, like it kind of has almost like a silky quality to it, where the Canadian wool is a bit more toothy, but it really softens up with washing and wear. But if you're looking for a more sturdier kind of garment that's gonna last you a really long time and can be kind of like an heirloom piece, the Canadian wool will be really great for that. The BFL sheep on non-superwash, it's comparable to a merino. I don't find it toothy next to skin, but if you're more sensitive, that might be the case. And for that, I would suggest getting just a single mini skein. I have that available under the Valentine's special option, where you could get just a 25-gram mini skein if that's something you want to try out. So Beth is asking, what does sun and moon mean? So in astrology, you have a birth chart, and it's basically like a snapshot of what the sky and the planets looked like at your time of birth. So the position the moon was in and the position the sun was in. And they're in different signs, different degrees. I don't know if there's an easy way I can explain that because it gets quite detailed. But the sun is kind of your personality. Yours has to do with yourself. And the moon is more kind of your private self, how you respond emotionally. And yeah, so that's what those signs mean. And depending on what astrological sign it's in, it will, or how do I explain it? Depending on what sign it is, it will affect you differently. Yeah, but I love astrology and I love mixing the astrology with yarn. So if you ever have any astrology questions too, or you want to know like some resources, I take a lot of like classes and courses for it. If you are interested in that kind of stuff, I could share with you where I've been going. Carrie asks, are your plants fresh or dried when you use them to dye? I do a mix of both. If I've just harvested and I need to dye with them, I'll use them fresh. And then I dry some and I also freeze some. And I do that mainly because I don't have a ton of space to be drying plants. At one point, my whole apartment, any flat surface was covered with a flower drying, and it just becomes chaotic very quickly. So I do dry some, but then some of them I freeze. I don't find it makes a huge difference on getting pigments. I find when I freeze them, it's very similar to had I used them fresh. Yeah, so I do different things. Olivia is asking, is the sport weight 100% Peruvian Highland wool from Canadian sheep? Is it similar to BFL softness or much more rustic and not skin? So the Peruvian Highland wool is not from Canadian sheep. I don't know exactly where the sheep are from. That's a yarn I get from kind of a wholesale supplier. So unfortunately, I do not have that information. Something that I would like to do this year is slowly replace most of my yarn with Canadian wool where I can. But I do have conflicting feelings about that too. But so we'll see. It is hard to be like a young queer person trying to build relationships with mills and farmers. So that's been an interesting journey. But it is something I would like to do. If anyone happens to know any queer sheep farmers, I would be interested in connecting with them. That would be great. But yeah, I'm so sorry. I do not know where the wool specifically is from, but it is quite soft still. So Peruvian Highland wool is a crossbreed of merino sheep. So it's not as soft as merino, but it is quite similar. And I would say it is also comparable to the BFL. Some people have said that it feels more rustic to them though. So I find it hard to compare yarns because everyone kind of has different sensitivity levels. And for some people, one wool might be more prickly to them, and to someone else that might be the softer option. But if you have any like specific breed questions, I could try to help you find a base that would be softest for you. If you have information on like different breeds you've tried and what felt soft to you and what didn't, I could try to help you that way. Wouldn't it come from Peru? It might, based on Peruvian Highland wool. That is where the sheep are from, but there's different sheep breeds all over the world. So I don't know exactly where that wool is coming from, if that makes sense, but maybe I'm wrong. Yes, merino and cordell. I'm not, yeah, it might be from Peru, or there might be a flock somewhere else that's not in Peru, but the sheep are from Peru. Yes, cross of merino and cordell. So merino's very soft, cordell is not as soft as merino. So I would say the Peruvian Highland wool does have a bit more bite to it, but it's, for me, it's still next to skin soft. But I know for some people, they focus on making garments that they won't wear next to skin. Maybe like a sweater or a jacket where they're wearing something underneath. Yeah, so if there's no more questions, I think I'm gonna wrap it up. Thank you so much for joining me here today, and I hope I wasn't too rambly because I get very nervous. But yeah, this was so great and fun. Thank you so much, everyone. I hope you have a lovely Sunday. Ooh, I almost forgot, because you all stayed till the end, that I have the treasure hunt word. If you are playing along, the word is fluffy. So make sure you write that down if you are entering the draw for the treasure hunt. I'm happy I did not forget. And thank you so much. This was great. Hope you get to join other people's presentations today, and the party at the end, right?
Do you have a discount code or anything for this weekend?
I do not. I'm so sorry. I tried
That's
to
okay.
price my yarns as fairly as I can because natural dye is very extensive. So sadly, no coupon code for this weekend. But yeah, but
Thank you for
so
your
much.
presentation. It was very good.
Thank you, Beth. Thank you so much.